Well, today's episode is going to be a little fun today. As you know, I mentioned before that I will continue with more on what's left from 2022 on late December. But we also continue what's going on today. So we're going to be reviewing DDT Pro Wrestling's Nevermind 2022 that took place on the 29th of December, where we have some titles on the line. We even have some very interesting matches you definitely want to hear. We're also got Game Changer Wrestling with their latest show, Save Me. And of course, we have AEW's Dark Elevation with 11 stacked matches. And also, we got some news updates we definitely going to be talking about. As you know, certain updates have been clear in WWE World. We got, of course, many other things, what matches are being booked, all this and that, the whole enchilada. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted WrestleZone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted WrestleZone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Jay right here. So, let's begin with DDT Pro Wrestling with Nevermind 2022. Like I said, dates back all the way to December 29th of 2022, before the start of the new year. Now, this is one of their bigger shows that they have at the end of the year, so let's get cracking now. Normally, people don't talk about the pre-shows, but here in Deleted WrestleZone, we actually do that. Just to let everybody know. Our first match, we have Kazuma Sumi and Yuya Kuroku from Burning takes on Toi Kojima of 37 Kamina and Hideki Katani of Eruption. So this is a very interesting match. Now I've seen Sumi before. He is one of the newer wrestlers, or shall we call them the young boy. But I have to say this match was pretty interesting because Toi Kojima and Hideki Katani are from two different factions. But I have to say they work pretty well. But in this case, it was Okatani who picked up the win due to the fact that he has been coming stronger and stronger every single time I watch him. So he pulled off an amazing diving drop kick onto Sumi, and bam, 1, 2, 3, it was done. Now our next match, we have a very interesting one. We have Antonio Honda, Soma Takoa, and of course Masahiro Takanashi taking on Damnation TA, consistent of Kanon, Minoru Fujita, and MJ Paul. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they are happy to see that MJ Paul is happy to see Soma Takoa. As you know, he was a member of Damnation. Most of the blame went on him due to the fact that they lost the match. But as always, we've seen how Kanon has proven himself his worth regardless. He picked up the win when he applied what is it he did? Oh yeah, he applied a submission on Antonio Honda just to shut him up. As you know, Antonio Honda always pulls off the most craziest comedic way to win, but that didn't work this time. Now, start of the main card, we have Takeshi Masada taking on the boss of DDT Pro Wrestling, Shinjiro Tagagi. You know how that works out with him. I mean, I don't know what Takeda actually thinks, because he is also one of the newer guys throughout 2022. But it was a pretty good match until uh, Tagagi put him in a Boston Crab and forced him to tap out. Next match, we have Yuki Ishida, who's originally from Harimoa, and Yuji Ino from Omega, taking on Yukio Sakaguchi, leader of Eruption, and of course the leader of Disaster Box, Harashima. So I have to say these two have worked out very well. I've seen recently in recent events, Sakaguchi and Harashima teamed up on various occasions. They seem like they found a newfound respect for each other, regardless that they're from two different factions. But in the end, it was of course a vertical knee strike by Harashima to Ishida to pick up the win. Excuse me. Next match we have, this one is a real fun one. We have Shuna Katsumata, Akito, Nichiri Kawamatsu, and Osamu Nishimura Nara taking on the Pheromones. Yes. Dino, um, Takeda, Inamari, and Ino. So as you know, the Pheromones, they're the one group that every wrestler cannot stand because of their ways, being all. But it appears like the fans are really rooting for them a lot because they are an orthodox team. If you guys ever seen them, they're like a bunch of fruitcakes in some ways. But it's really funny, comedic, and all this other stuff. Not even certainly other member, the opposing team against the Pheromones. Well, we know Katsumata has dealt with them before, and the first time that he messed with them, he got himself in hot water when Dino made out with him. This is before Takeshita left DDT, but it was so funny. But in the end, it was of course Ino who pinned his old pal Katsumata. But however, I always say this: Katsumata never learns to shut up. He always gets himself in hot waters. The other members of 37 coming always try to tell him to keep his mouth shut. Did he? Well, last time when they defeated Pheromones, he said something about Dino's dog. So now he has to be the Pheromones dog in the post match. So it's kind of funny. I always say, Katsumata, you need to shut up. But he never shuts up. So that's what he gets for being that way. Our next match, this is a very interesting exhibition match. I did not anticipate this. This was we have an intergender match. We have Chihiro Hashimoto from Sendai Girls taking on Shinya Aoki. Now, Aoki, I didn't expect him that he would challenge Hashimoto at all, but it was a good match. But in the end, it was, of course, the override by Hashimoto that picked up the win against Aoki. Aoki was a bit of a stun, like he couldn't believe he lost. Now I don't know what he thought. The dude is a real skinny dude, but he has power regardless of his size. But you look at Hashimoto, she is big. She's a big woman with muscle. She's gonna pick up a win somehow. So yeah, that's what I liked about it. Now our next match, we have the Yoshi wrestlers taking the stage. We have Riko Kawahara and Sayori Onoi teaming up, taking on the current, well, at the time they were the Princess of Princess Tag Team Champions. We're talking about, of course, Yuki Arai and Saki Akia. I have to say it was a pretty good match. Now, this match was set like a couple of months ago when they issued a challenge against them, but not for the tag titles because they're not associated. Tokyo Show Pro Wrestling is a different type of entity for those who are probably asking, but it was a really good one. I think I enjoyed everything about it, but it was, of course, Saki who picked up the win by pinning Rico. So it was a real good match, and I guess Sayori Onoi liked what she saw. I wouldn't be surprised if she would have to team up with Saki Akai now that she's no longer tag team champions. But we know for a fact that they are going to aim to get those titles back regardless after losing those titles to Wasteland Party War. Now our next match is the first of few matches that was set. We have for the KOD 6-man tag team championships. We have the challengers, members from Burning. Katora Suzuki, you may have seen him in Noah. He teams up with Yusuke Okada and Tetsuya Endo. They take on Kazuki Irada and Todowashi of Disaster Box, and of course Noda Kodoi, who is now working as a freelancer, who still works with Dragon Gate. I thought this match was pretty good because it was like you look at Burning, they are trying to rebuild now since Endo is no longer the KOD Openweight champion. But I think it was a pretty good one. I think this is Yusuke Okada's first ever title match. I know he had no, he had other title matches, but not in tag team form. But this was a pretty good one. Well, I don't remember. I'll look it up again. But it was a good one. It was of course Endo who walked out as the victor when he applied the shooting star press onto Irada, giving them the opportunity to become the KOD six-man tag team champions. And I think this will make Okada's first time being a champion for the first time in his career with DDT. However, when the party thought was over, when you thought the party just started, it kind of got into sideways because apparently new challengers rose to the occasion. And the challengers are none other than the Pheromones. I did not anticipate the Pheromones were going to make that challenge, but I know they do have a little bit of history with Endo when Damnation first broke up. Endo was looking for a place to see where he fits, but he never did find himself fit with the Pheromones. But it doesn't take a genius that they're talking about. Probably they want a shot and that sort of thing. But we will see when that takes place. Now our next match is the DDT Extreme Championship. This one is between Super Sandango Machine taking on Jun Akiyama, who is the current champion. This was a very weird match. They used one of those. I don't know if you guys remember. There's this toy, kind of like game or toy, where you press these little buttons and there's like these boxers, like mechanic boxes like that. They were doing that. I'm like, okay, maybe they just don't want to go extreme. Maybe they thought this was a little extreme. But DDT has some weird matches. You probably would say, what? But that's what it was. But I have to say, I enjoyed every moment of it. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of chaotic, but it didn't change my perspective. But in the end, it was Akiyama who picked up the win. So it was really fun. Now, our next match, we have Daisuke Sekimoto and Ricky Shane Page taking on Yukio Naya and, of course, Konosuke Takeshita. Now, Takeshita only came back for this particular event because, he had to be involved. Just to let everybody know, he is still with AEW. So he has to go back and forth on certain times where there's important matches that he has to be involved with DDT. But Yuki Naya, he is currently a rising star. I feel like he will pick up the slack after for Takeshita. I mean, he has been a rising star for months. We've seen what he reinvented himself, much of himself this entire 2022, and I thought it was going to be great. But it was him who picked up the win with a backdrop onto RSP to give them win. So now the speculation is that 2023 will be his year. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now our next match is a four-way match. We have Garanoi versus Mao versus was it Chris Brooks versus Daisuke Sasaki from the Damnation. This was a very interesting four-way, but in the end, it was Mao who picked up the win. So I have to say it was pretty good. Now our main event is for the KOD Openweight Championship between Yuki Inoue from 37 Kamina, and he is also the current DDT Universal Champion, taking on the KOD Openweight Champion himself, Kasumata Iguchi. I have to say this was a very hard-hitting match. A little bit of the submission moves, that sort of thing. But in the end, in this one, it was Iguchi who picked up the win by applying a chokehold. Yukino had no other choice but to tap. And I think in the post-match promo, Iguchi gave props to Inoue for standing up with a strong competitor. But however, it appears that Iguchi has a new challenger, and that is Yuji Ino from Omega, who seems like he wants to take a shot at him. So, but Iguchi never says no to any new challenger. He's always up to the task. He always felt that he's been the flag bearer of DDT Pro Wrestling. So we'll see how it goes when he faces Yuji Ino. And I think that's pretty much it what we have with DDT. I believe it's time for GCW. Okay, GCW with their latest event, Save Me, and I think this one took place in Chicago recently on the 7th of January. So it opened up with Cole Radrick taking on with the King of Strange Style, Aris. Pretty good match, very solid. Um, it was a very interesting match with this one, but it was Cole Radrick who picked up the win. I don't know what move they call that he. Well, I heard they mentioned the name. I just couldn't make it out, but it was over from the moment Cole Radrick won. So pretty good one. Next match we have ASF versus Starboy Charlie. I have to say this one was a good one because they're almost equal in size, But I look at Starboy Charlie, he was like rising up, getting better and better all the time. It was an amazing spinning roundhouse kick that sealed the deal for him to pick up against ASF. I'm like, wow, I liked it. So I think Starboard Charlie is on the fast track of rising up. So we'll see what happens then. Our next match is our only championship match involved in this one. We have the GCW tag team titles. Los Macizos, Medio Extremo, and Ciclopse taking on the Bang Bros, Davey Bang and August Matthews. Also a pretty good match. Now, more, but I hope the Bang Bros know what they were doing because the reason is the Macizos will bring out the toys in order to pick up a win. That's always been their MO, but it was, of course, a stomp by Miedo Extremo onto um, August Matthews that picked up the win. So I thought, okay, a good one, but not that great. I feel like they could have found better tag teams that could challenge them for those tag titles. That's my honest opinion. Our next match, we have Blake Christian taking on Leon Slater. Now, we have been seeing Blake Christian with a chip on his shoulder, seeing him how he's not been happy, like he felt that his time is now, but losing in that do or die Rumble match that took place at 56 Nights. He's been in a whirlwind where he just loses his cool. So he has changed a lot since then. So that kind of goes out. But it was a pretty good match until we all thought he was about to apply a 450 splash off the springboard, but it did not happen. He flipped off the fans, and then instead, he gave a huge stomp onto Leon Slater, giving him the win, but that doesn't end there. Post match, he decides to give him a beatdown, and no one came out to stop him. Last time, he almost tried to do it with Masha Slamovich, but you can guarantee that Akira will get his payback for what he did to Masha sooner than later. Next match, we have tag team action. We have Joey Janela, who was supposed to team with this person, but he did not. It turned out his new partner turned out to be Jimmy Lloyd. They take on the Second Gear Crew, One Call Manners, and Matthew Justice. Now, I would have assumed as a fan, because I've been watching GCW a lot, that this would go in favor of the Second Gear Crew because these guys, they don't waste time. They don't play games. They don't, do all mess around. That's always been their MO. But Joey Janela and Jimmy Lloyd definitely put up a hell of a fight, despite the fact that they're different from each other. But it did help out. It was, of course, a pinfall by both Janela and Jimmy that put away Justice that gave them the first win as a tag team. I have to say, this is a very good, interesting tag team between both Jimmy and Joey. So hopefully we'll see more of them teaming up down the line. Now, our next match, we have Alec Price versus Rocket versus Mago versus Robert Anthony. Now, Alec Price has been on the fast track as well. He is becoming one of the most impressive wrestlers we have been watching. So, I liked every moment, but his biggest moment is when he gave him that same kind of kick we see with Swerve onto Rocket, gave him the win on that too. Now, our next match, this was a very strange one. We were supposed to have a 3-on-3 match. We have Mason's Mercenaries, led by Charles Mason and, with Slade and Pyro. However, Charles Mason couldn't make it, so it became on 2-on-3. They take on Thrusty, consisting of Alley Catch, Effie, and Dark Sheik. Now, this could have been an easy match for Thrusty if it wasn't for three. But however, that wasn't the case. You have Slade, who's a psychotic nut job. You got Pero, who's this big individual who has issues towards Effie. So that kind of sets out. But something went wrong and it ended in a no contest. We saw this masked wrestler attack Effie, and it turned out to be Billy Dixon. And I'm like, what the hell? Now, this is the strange part. Billy Dixon has been in all kinds of hell with Charles Mason in the past. Why would he side with the guy who tried to torture him? It made no absolute sense. So it's kind of weird now that he sides with him after what he did. So we'll see what happens then. But Charles Mason seems like he might have paid him a good money in order to send a message to Effie. So we'll see what happens then. Now, our next match, we have John Wayne Murdoch taking on Homicide. So this is going to be good because John Wayne Murdoch, he is one of those guys you talk about in the deathmatch scene. Homicide, legendary for what he's done in the past. So you probably would have imagined this match would be a banger. Yes, it did. But it was Homicide who walked out as the victor when he pinned John Wayne Murdoch. Now, our next match, this is our main event. We have the East-West Express, consistent of Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver, taking on the Hater Club, Matt Tremont and Nick Gage. I love every moment of this because this was a pretty good match. Like, you got the past wrestlers, like the veterans, taking on the future, and I think that's a good story to tell. But unfortunately, Nick Wayne ended up on the wrong side of a pile driver by Nick Gage. 1, 2, 3, it was over right from there. But I have to say, it was a good one to enjoy. I loved it. It was amazing. So we'll see what happens in the next event, and that'll take place later on in this month. So right now, let's just move on with our last review, AEW Dark Elevation. Okay, our last review, AEW Dark Elevation. So let's get started. Our first match, we have Brian Cage along with Prince Nana taking on Shaft. Now, since AEW Dark Elevation was taped in Seattle, this was a homecoming for Shaft since this is where the territories. But I have to say, this was like a battle of the behemoths between two big, strong men. But in the end, this one falls in favor of Brian Cage when he applied the drill claw. 1, 2, 3, just like that, it was done. Now, we do see an interview with Ethan Page talking about how things are going great with him and Party Hardy. But however, Matt shows up, says he had a quite a change of plans, saying that instead of a tag team, they're going to have a trios match. Now, Ethan Page at first did not like it, but Matt Hardy thought, let's just make it happen. So he's kind of making it up now. I don't know what Matt Hardy is going on. Why is he embracing Ethan Page? I'm had that suspicious feeling that he's gonna set him up. That's what I think, trying to get his guard down. So, but Isaiah Cassidy's like not sure about this, so he's kind of like a little confused. Now we do see the Bollywood Boys taking up stage. They take on against the OGK, the Kingdom, Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. Good match. I think it was like a very interesting one because since we know that the Bollywood Boys make their presence known in Seattle, especially with DEFY, it was of course in the end the Kingdom that walked out one. Of course, they did some combo where Mike Bennett applied a backpack stunner on, and then of course Matt Taven did like some sort of kick, a very interesting combo, and of course Mike Bennett picked up the win by pinning one of them, but it was good. Next up, we have another interview with Claudio Castagnoli. He actually talked about Josh Woods, give him his props, his due, knowing that he's a former pure champion. So we'll see what that takes place, and I believe that's going to take that match is a little later near the end. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll find out. So our next match, we have Ryan Meredith along with Peter Avalon and Ari Daivari. They take on the House of Black. Now you can guess this match ended in the House of Black favor due to they tried a triple combo onto who was it they did it on? Onto Ari, and it was over right from there. So, like they always say, the house always wins. Next match, we have Powerhouse Hobbs taking on Vinny Pacifico. Vinny's mistake in this match for losing is that he jumped off the turnbuckle, but Powerhouse catched him, and then of course he applied a spine buster. It was over right from there. Next up, we got Marina Shafir and Nyla Rose, along with Vicky, taking on Amari and Danica de la Rogue. Vicky was not ringside; she was like on top of the stage area of the ramp. I don't know what's going on. I know she's upset that Nyla Rose did not pick up the win to become the TBS champion. That sort of made clear. But they actually won when they applied the like a combination DDT onto the who was it on the on Rogue. It makes no sense. But I think the story is telling us, is she gonna turn on them? I don't know. We'll just wait and see. Now, the Butcher and the Blade put out a notice to the tag team division, as you know, they are getting back on track, and that's what their message is all about. Now, our next match, we have, of course, Josh Woods taking on Claudio Castagnoli. Awesome match. You probably would have thought this would end with the giant swing. It did not, but it took a big, strong uppercut by Claudio, and boom, just like that, it was over. Excuse me. Ooh. Next up, we got Isaiah Cassidy, Matt Hardy, and Ethan Page taking on Cody Chun, Guillermo Rosas, and Sonico. This ended, of course, as always, with Ethan Page winning, applying a twist of fate. And just like that. Next match, we have Athena taking on Viva Van. This ends with her doing a crossface onto Viva Van. But however, like always, whenever she wins her matches, she goes up, attacks them. But out of nowhere, we see Marina Shafir calling her out, saying she wants the ROH Women's Championship. That is like next level. I have to say, she's calling her shot. So we'll just wait and see when that day takes place. Next up, we got Eddie Kingston and Ortiz taking on Ricky Gibson and Eddie Perlman. This ends with the DDT by Eddie to Ricky, and that's pretty much it, because we gotta wait to see what's gonna take place when they face the Kings of the Black Throne. Next up, we got Christopher Daniels taking on Bandito. Awesome match. I love Bandito. He's amazing. I met him before, so he's pretty cool. But he applied a knee strike onto Christopher Daniels. 1, 2, 3. It was done right there. Then we have, for our main event, we have Chaos Project, Serpentico and Luther taking on Best Friends. Now, the funny moment is, as you all know, the Best Friends are accompanied by Danhausen. We know Danhausen likes to curse people. Apparently, Serpentico was about to curse Danhausen, but he accidentally got Luther, then Danhausen got Serpentico, so that made it easier. But it was, of course, the Best Friends who picked up the win when they put away Serpentico. So I thought it was fun with Danhausen. So it was pretty cool. So I think that's pretty much it with AEW Dark Elevation. So let's move on with some news updates. our news updates. So let's get cracking. Now, updates coming in from WWE. As you know, we saw not too long ago Kyrie Ray, who went by Brianna Bay Ray, made an appearance at WWE's main event. However, news came out that saying that she's not currently signed with WWE. That's kind of like, what? We all thought the same thing, but it turns out that she's not. She's still a free agent. Now, I have talked about this before. Now, I have nothing against the idea of her going to WWE. I mean, I say it's great for her and all this, but the one thing I'm always concerned is her. We saw in recent times in the last couple of years where she signed with the company and she leaves due to her mental health issues or whatever she goes through. And I'm not holding anything against her. I'm just worried that because the thing is, when it comes to companies like WWE, they need their talent to be reliable, and I think that's one of the things that caused me a bit concerned. But I'm not saying I'm happy that she's not with WWE. I'm just concerned over how it is with her. You know what I mean? So that's me how I feel. But we'll see. Now, this one came from Fightful Select, where they talk about Chelsea Green. It's now been confirmed that she's officially signed with WWE. However, she is awaiting for the creative team for how they're going to bring her up. This is one of those things where we have to play the waiting game. So now, if you asking me you guys probably ask me, what about her husband, Matt Cardona? Well, we don't know. I know there's some talk there could be a little interest in having him back, but we just wait and see what takes place afterwards. Now, recent news has come up about Tessa Blanchard and her husband Daga. A couple of days ago, Daga posted something on Twitter saying that she cheated on me and all that. It was deleted. I have no idea, but apparently they announced their separation. Let me pull that up. Let me pull it up because I have it on my phone here because normally because of what I read statements, I put that all on my phone. Let's see. Let me pull it up. Here it is. This is what they had to say. After considerable thought, reflecting, and mixed emotions, we've decided to separate. We are two strong-willed, hardworking, and resilient people who hold nothing but love for each other. As painful as divorce is, we are thankful that no infinitely other interests were involved in our decision. We are parting as friends. We both want to see each other succeed, reach the pinnacle of our success in our business and life. We want to thank all the advice for your support as we navigate the next chapter of our lives. We ask that you respect our privacy and keep us in your prayers. Miguel and Tessa. Miguel is actually Daga's real name. So people are saying that this could lead to divorce. I mean, we don't know if that's the actual thing, but we'll just wait and see what happens. But I know some people don't like Tessa because of her attitude, the baggage she has. I get that. Daga, I met him before here in my hometown of San Diego when he attended a Lucha Libre event. My prayers are for him, So we'll see how that goes down the line. So let's just keep on moving forward. Now, match has been announced for the upcoming Black Label Pro event that takes place for Love Stinks on the 18th of February. First time ever these guys will come across each other. Adam Priest versus Eric Stevens. From my understanding, this is the first time they're going to be meeting for the first time in the ring. WrestleCon has announced for their next guest taking place at WrestleMania week. We have Toni Storm. So any Toni Storm fans out there, if you're planning to go to WrestleMania, now you know that Toni Storm is going to be there. Freelance Wrestling has announced for their upcoming event at any given Sunday on the 14th of this month. The world title will be on the line. Robert Anthony will face Ricky Morton. Rock and roll, yeah. So that's going to be awesome to see. Next up, DEFY has announced for their dangerous event, Most Dangerous show on the 20th of this month. Marina Shafir, who makes her debut, will face Cat Power, who's dubbed as the Yoshi Slayer. So this is gonna be a very interesting one to check it out. As you know, I reviewed the recent Noah event of New Year's. Jake Lee, who originally came from All Japan Pro Wrestling, I was surprised he was there. Now, information has risen about him that he is no longer with the company. He made the announcement that he will be leaving, so he moved out of All Japan and now he moved to Noah. So his initial response of going to Noah is because he wants to fight wrestlers he's never faced before. And I have to say, it's a smart move. Now, some people would say he could have gone better to New Japan. I would agree, but I think Noah is a good move for him because, he was the leader of his own faction that now is dissolved. So the real question is which faction will take him in New Japan. But we'll see about that. Now, updates for the GCW event, updates with GCW. Brand new shows have announced, updates. The first one we have, of course, we have GCW versus New South. If you guys remember, this is a collaboration between two different promotions clashing with each other that will take place on the 20th of January. It's announced that Tony Deppen will take on Brandon Wickley. So I don't know much about this guy, but I'm sure that's going to be a good one to watch. Now, GCW also announced they'll be returning to Atlantic City at the Showboat. They announced for 2 new shows that will take place back to back in the month of March. There's Holy Smokes that will take place on March 4th, and then there's Ransom on March 5th. So keep your calendars ready. There's no announcement yet who will participate, but I will announce that as we go in the upcoming month or two on this one. Now, finally, Marvelous has announced for some events that will be taking place for the month of January, this month, and February. So this is the days they announced. There's the 17th of January in Shinkiba, and then of course another one in Shinkiba on the 25th of January, and then a month later in Shinkiba again on the 3rd of February. And then on the 12th of February, they're going to be in Shiba. So mark your calendars. So some of you may ask, how can we watch it? Well, there's this thing called a Zyko. You can check that out right there. So you can watch it from there, I think. But you can make your request to watch it on prowrestling.org if you want to, because I watch all of that material over there. Now, we have an official statement. Now, if you guys remember, on a news update, I talked about Rin Kadokura has announced that she'll be leaving Marvelous, that she'll be moving to Canada with her husband. So, the founder, Shigusa Nagayo actually put out a statement. So this is what she had to say. Dear fans, it's officially announced that Rin Kadokura is leaving Marvelous Pro Wrestling organization. Marvelous Pro Wrestling does not have many wrestlers, but she fought really well with her full effort on the ring. Then she happily got married last year. Her husband's going to work at Canada from this year. We think that it would be really hard for Rina to live away from her husband for a few years, so we believe she had better go to Canada to live together. We told Ren that she doesn't have to worry about Marvelous Pro Wrestling, but she should focus on her marriage life. So we decided that she should leave us and have a happy life. Also, she wanted as well. She will live in Canada, but she can fight for our ring anytime. We promised her that we will always welcome her and she can have her retirement with us one day. We apologize for the short notice about Rin's leave. We're really appreciative for your understanding. Please support this young, happy couple. Signed, Shigusa Nagayo. Now, it's an understandable statement. Now, keep in mind, it's long distance relationship is not really a good thing for many people. So I think it's a good thing that the organization thought what's best for her. I mean, that it's best for Ren to move to Canada to be with her husband, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you guys remember, this is the same, almost similar situation with Kyrie when she was still living in here in the states in Florida. She was her husband, her boyfriend slash husband, however they were going, was living in Japan, and then they got married. So she wanted to stay in Japan because she wanted to be close to him. So that's an understandable thing to hear. So if the organization, the upper management thought what's best for her, I think we should also respect that decision, knowing that being away from her husband is not healthy for their marriage. I mean, they are young and they should live their lives together. I think that's nothing wrong with it. But as you heard, she said that she's welcome to come back for a match anytime she wants. But if she wants to plan her retirement there, it's the same thing. She hasn't announced anything about that yet. But we just got to wait and see what takes place. So I think that's pretty much it with our news updates and everything else. So I believe it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, as you know, we have Tuesday Wrestling, we have NWA Power, AEW Dark, and NXT New Year's Evil. I'm so excited for that one. We will see who will walk out between Grayson Waller and Braun Breaker for the NXT title. We do have a sort of a Rumble match to determine the number one contenders for the NXT Women's Championship and plenty others. If there's anything else I want to add before any other events I want to review, I'll do that when I haven't decided what, because there's still some I haven't reviewed yet. So we'll go along. I'll play it by ear. So as of right now, let's just say I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.